Unmute ourselves during the intro. That sounds enough.
That's why it's really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this DJ?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
Really, at the end of the day, it's just a matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Our content cannot and does not contain crypto. Financial advice. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, welcome to this here special episode of the DGen Roundtable's Book Club. We are currently on episode number 59 of the DGen Roundtable Book Club. We are going to be reading the Bitcoin white paper tonight by the anonymous Satoshi Nakamoto. Joining me tonight is Mr. Nate McGettit. For those of you guys also who don't know who I am, my name is Will Stevenson. I'm a TV tower worker that travels the states building TV and radio towers, and I like to talk cryptocurrency and self-improvement in my free time. Nate here joining me tonight is one of the DGen Roundtable's networkers. He likes to go around and see what's going on in different communities, and he chit-chats with people and makes friends and influences folks. So Nate Broski, how are you doing tonight, man? It's a scarce crew tonight on the book club.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. You know, it is pretty nice. I've been working just constantly, but I was actually able to get off earlier today and actually have the Saturday off as well, because it was going to be a mandatory Saturday, but I get to have it off. So I decided to join book club, and we're going to go through the Bitcoin white paper that I've never gone through. There's a lot of things, I've heard from it, right? Obviously you can't talk and can't get into the weeds of Bitcoin without having something from the white paper popping out, but we're going to get really into the weeds today, so go ahead, stay tuned, and we're going to have a good time.
Yep, it's going to be awesome. I've actually never read the white paper either. I've been in crypto since 2021, and I've never once read the Bitcoin white paper. I have like a vague idea of what's inside of it. So this is going to be a new experience for all of us here. So I'll go ahead, and it's actually we're not the only ones that it's a new experience for. Let's go ahead and do chat motherfucking shout outs. We've got some folks in the comments who it's their first time ever actually going through the Bitcoin white paper. So first and foremost, we've got Mr. Ken Turian 54X saying, "What's up, Degens? I have personally never read the entire Bitcoin white paper. Me neither, bro." So this is going to be a first. I also had ChatGPT explain to me some of the more complicated parts of it. So we're going to be asking ChatGPT about things like Poisson distributions and other such fancy words and things. So, yep, as I had said, I've never read it either. So it's going to be interesting. We're also joined tonight by, as you guys can see in the comments, the Ascending Man. That's Mr. Nate. Yep, he's only ever heard things about it. And we're also joined by Miss Amber Simon. Miss Amber Simon says, hello to you too, Miss Amber Simon. Glad that we could have you on the show tonight with us. We're all going to be learning something about why was Bitcoin created. What was the goal? What was like Satoshi's vision of like Bitcoin when it first started, and all other such things. Oh, and we're also joined by an Arceus. Arceus says, "It is a damn fine smash button. I guess I do like it. Absolutely. It's such a good thumbs up." So we like it when the people at home give us the fantastic metrics and whatnot, but only like that, smash that like button if you think that we're doing a good job and you want to give us a thumbs up. I also like to count those. That's one of the stats that I track for the DGen Roundtable. So I got a little running spreadsheet of how many times different DGen Roundtable members have been on the show. like multiplied by how many, likes and how much view count. So like I get into all sorts of fun little data tracking stuff with it. So it's a nice little vanity metric for us here. So anyways, thank you guys for liking that smash button, for smashing that like button, doing all those great things. I'm going to be producing tonight, so bear with me if we run into some snags and things. But let's go ahead and I guess just hop right on into it. So here I have the Bitcoin white paper. For those of you guys that have never ever seen this thing before, this is the Bitcoin white paper. It is 9 pages long, not incredibly difficult read. Like there's some, I guess I'll zoom out a little bit so you guys can see the whole thing. But yeah, it's kind of cool. It's got some little flow charts and diagrams in there, and it's not incredibly long, not incredibly arduous. There is some math stuff, which I think this all has to do with Poisson distribution, but we're going to have ChatGPT help us out with that part. So yeah, it's pretty nifty. And then at the very bottom, they got some references. So that's the entirety of the Bitcoin white paper. So in lieu of covering other books on book club, this is going to be the thing that we are doing tonight. So I'll go ahead and zoom on in here. We will square that away because there's nothing much more obnoxious than a sheet of paper that is not centered. So I'll first show the folks at home how they can find this Bitcoin white paper. And I've already gone ahead and posted the link in the DGen Roundtable Book Club Telegram. But I'll go ahead and switch to this tab. For those of you guys that have never been to bitcoin.org, this is where you go for Bitcoin information. And it gives you all of the stuff. These got the introduction where it talks about what is the Bitcoin stuff. And right here down at the bottom is where it says white paper. So we click on that. Bazinga. Oh, allegedly we click on it. Oh, wow. Look at that. And they've got it in all sorts of different languages. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up the English one. And there it is. So we've already got that locked and loaded in our other tab. So we're going to hop right back on over there. So if you guys ever want to look at the Bitcoin white paper and find it, you just go to bitcoin.org and it's right up there, right in the very beginning. So let's go ahead and hop right on into it. So Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system.
Before we actually hop into it, we had a couple of other people just join us right now.
Oh, we have had some other people hop on in. Excellent. Let's take a good call, Mr. Nate McGettit. So we are also joined by Tam Tam. Hello, Tam Tam. Good to see you. She says, hello, my lovelies, with the little heart. Good to see you, Tam. Number 1 pulse chain, Hexaco, and cryptocurrency cheerleader in general. We're always glad to have you with us here on these fantastic Whiskey Wednesday, or excuse me, not Whiskey Wednesday, Book Club Friday shows. All the shows. We're glad to have everybody here. It's awesome. And then we're also joined by my good friend, Dr. Alan Chen, Your Health Unplugged. You guys can find him over on YouTube at that spot. And he says, happy Bitcoin Pizza Day, which was yesterday. That's actually a pretty fun fact. I had no idea it was Bitcoin Pizza Day yesterday. So
you know what's really funny?
What's that?
That pizza, every single cycle, that pizza keeps getting more and more expensive.
Yeah. Actually, oh yeah, you said the $18 million pizza. That's freaking hilarious. Yeah,
that's
so I think
that's the figure that I saw it at too. So it's probably a lot more by now.
I know that homeboy, I want to say he spent 10,000 Bitcoin on 2 pizzas. So whatever that math adds up to be,
shit.
Wait, no, 10,000. 10,000.
Yeah, 10,000 times 100,000. That's like, isn't that like 2 billion?
Okay. Now I got to Google it now. Hang on. How much
got us curious.
I'm just gonna do Bitcoin pizza. Bitcoin pizza. Man, this is something I should know. Okay. The $1 billion pizza for AP News. Bitcoin pizza day. 15 years since 10,000 Bitcoin bought 2 pizzas. Wow. I think he bought them from Papa John's too. I like Papa John's, so I remember that statistic. Did someone really pay 10,000 Bitcoin for pizza? Yes. So Laszlo Hanyeks paid for 2 Papa John's pizzas delivered to his Florida home on May 22nd, 2010. They were worth $41 at the time. Today, they're worth almost $1.1 billion.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's fucking nuts, man. Can you imagine that? Just like having to live with that statistic.
You know what's funny is they've done some interviews with him, and apparently he was a Bitcoin miner, right? So Like
Yeah.
he kind of laughs and giggles at it because he himself already mined out a whole bunch more, right?
Mhm.
And so he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I lost 10,000 Bitcoin, but it's not like it was the end of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's freaking crazy. We've also got some more folks hopping in here with the
Hey-o.
chats. We've got Mr. RH Max. I like the Bitcoin white paper. Absolutely, broski. I've never read it, so I'm about to find out if I like it.
Yeah,
And then he also says that he also the Hex white paper. I've never read that either. Man, maybe that would be
maybe next time.
we'll see how long this one takes to read, and then we might I'm not promising anything, RH Max, but if we can get to the Hex white paper, then that's something I would also like to read. Maybe on this show, maybe on a later one. I've never actually gone through it, but we'll see how long it takes to get through the Bitcoin one, and then we'll kind of play by ear. But it's good to have you, RH Max. Shout out to RH Max. He does a lot of excellent streaming and excellent shows and excellent
He's great.
debates, by the way. If y'all are in a frisky debating mood, then that's the man to hit up to do it. So he's been going around the spaces, offering debates to people, and having some good conversations.
Really
So
cool, I like.
we love to see it. All right. Any more thoughts, Nate, before we hop on into this white papery reading? You think?
No, sir. I'm ready to go. Oh, wait. Yeah, one more thought, actually. This
Let's
popped up to me. I so badly want to send an email to that old email address just because.
Oh, to Satoshi?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Like, hi,
Satoshi
Satoshi,
N
thank
at
you for creating me.
gmx.com. That'd be probably pretty cool. Yeah, go ahead and send an email over to Satoshi, see what he has to say. I hear he's got some cool ideas. Alrighty, so we've got Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system by Satoshi Nakamoto. You can reach him at satoshien@gmx.com or at www.bitcoin.org. Before we get into it, I always thought www dot takes so much longer to say than World Wide Web, www.worldwideweb.bitcoin.com. Anyways, enough from me. Time to hop on into the what is Bitcoin. So here's the abstract. A purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. Digital signatures provide part of the solution, but the main benefits are lost if a trusted third party is still required to prevent double spending. We propose a solution to the double spending problem using a peer-to-peer network. With a network of timestamped transactions, the network timestamps transactions by hashing them into an ongoing chain of hash-based proof of work, forming a record that cannot be changed without redoing the proof of work. The longest chain not only serves as proof of the sequence of events witnessed, but proof that it came from the largest pool of CPU power. As long as the majority of CPU power is controlled by nodes that are not cooperating to attack the network, they'll generate the longest chain and outpace attackers. The network itself requires minimal structure. Messages are broadcast on a best effort basis. The nodes can leave and rejoin the network at will, accepting the longest proof of work chain as proof of what happened while they were gone. So that's pretty nifty. So a combination of nodes and miners are what makes the blockchain work. So I guess he'll get into the miners later. But any thoughts on this first paragraph, or I'll just hop on over to the next? You got anything?
No, it's fun how the very first paragraph there, the abstract idea is literally the blockchain, and it just so happens that your reward token for the blockchain, like working with the blockchain, is literally Bitcoin.
Yep.
It's super simple.
It is a chain of blocks, all cryptographically.
Yeah. What's really cool about it, when just with this first paragraph here, is like the true invention was the blockchain, and then you have this like extra little reward thing to incentivize you to do it, which is the Bitcoins, and that's supposed to be the reward payout. But the real technology is the blockchain. So I find it fascinating. I love it.
Yeah, this is neat, man. I feel like I'm like diving through history here, which I suppose we are. But dude, it's crazy. That was only like 2009. That was 14 years ago. Like, that's nuts.
I was in high school.
That was such little amount of time, though. Yeah, me too. Like, I think I was a sophomore. I graduated in 11, so yeah, I would have been a sophomore. But yeah, dude, it's like 14 years, and we've gone from a thing that equals nothing to a thing that's over $100,000. Fucking nuts, man. And it's just a digital pet rock. Shout out to Sami.
Yeah, well, it's a literal. It's technically a dirty reward token, like all those yield reward tokens we get.
Yeah, it's an
That we all
inflationary
want so much.
token. Yeah,
That's crazy.
inflationary with a max cap that we'll never see. The last Bitcoin will be out by 2135 or thereabouts. But yeah, it isn't up until that point. It will be inflationary. It's just not as inflationary as the dollar. All right, so let's see. We'll hop on into the introduction. So, commerce on the internet has come to rely almost exclusively on financial institutions serving as trusted third parties to process electronic payments. While the system works well enough for most transactions, it still suffers from the inherent weakness of the trust-based model. Completely non-reversible transactions are not really possible since financial institutions cannot avoid mediating disputes. The cost of mediation increases transaction costs, limiting the minimum practical transaction size and cutting off the possibility for small, casual transactions. And there's a broader cost in the loss of ability to make non-reversible payments for non-reversible services. With the possibility of reversal, the need for trust spreads. Merchants must be wary of their customers, hassling them for more information than they would otherwise need. A certain percentage of fraud is accepted as unavoidable. These costs and payment uncertainties can be avoided in person by using physical currency, but no mechanism exists to make payments over a communications channel without a trusted party. That's actually, I think the communications channel part is the niftiest thing that I had recently learned about, is like Bitcoin is a payment system that does not require anything but like essentially a can, like two cans and a string. So like if I could hold a can and you could hold a can and there's a string in between us, I can pay you by simply talking into it. Like it's several orders of magnitude more complicated than that, but I thought that was pretty nifty.
No, that's a very practical way of thinking about how the blockchain technically works.
Yeah. It's just like the more messages we send over the string, I guess like some information drips off of the string and gets stored somewhere. I don't know, but it's like at its core, that's what it is. It's like the internet is a communications medium.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here we go. Moving on. What is needed is an electronic payment system based on cryptographic proof instead of trust, allowing two willing parties to transact directly with each other without the need for a trusted third party. Transactions that are computationally impractical to reverse would protect sellers from fraud, and routine escrow mechanisms could easily be implemented to protect buyers. In this paper, we propose a solution to the double spending problem using peer-to-peer distributed timestamp server to generate computational proof of the chronological order of transactions. The system is secure as long as honest nodes are collectively control more CPU power than any cooperating group of attacker nodes. So that's a little bit more into the weeds, but it's basically like, hey, on electronic payment systems, you get into a problem where like if I, say like, hey, I've sent you $1, but I actually haven't sent the dollar, then like, that's the double spending problem. Is like if I send you $1 and you update your server to say now you have plus $1 and I never update my server to say I have minus $1, then congratulations, that dollar has been double spent. So this is how they solve that process, or this is essentially the blockchain is how they stop that from happening. So any thoughts on that, or we'll get into section 2?
Yeah, let's keep going.
All right, sweet. So section 2 is transactions. We define an electronic coin as a chain of digital signatures. Each owner transfers the coin to the next by digitally signing a hash of the previous transaction and the public key of the next owner and adding those to the end of the coin. A payee can verify the signatures to verify the chain of ownership. So you got transaction, owner number one's public key, which is their wallet address, and then a hash, which is, I don't know what a hash is, but it's some magical number probably. And then there's owner zero's signature, right? So then owner one puts in his little private data entry as he is sending the transaction over to owner number 2. So he sends it to owner number 2's public key, which is his wallet. So like if I say, hey, Nate's wallet 12345, send it over there, and then I put in my password ABCDE, then that gets sent over to you, and then the hash is created, and then I guess that you sign it or something after there's a verification process, and then bazinga, now the transaction is yours, and they just keep stacking and stacking and stacking. So that's my peanut brain explanation of it. But
yeah, that's the block. That would be a ledger. a ledger signing on the blockchain, and so you could think of those, each of those, as like just like one of the blocks.
Yeah, so
Nodes.
that's a good way to put it. I like that. There's also a so I have, like, I not only have this on the one side of my screen, I also have ChatGPT on the other side, that I had it write down like a simple layperson's understanding of each of the sections. So in the transaction section, it says basically just imagine like the blockchain is a super duper long receipt showing where the money has been. Everyone can see the receipt, and each person who receives the Bitcoin signs it digitally to show that it's theirs. So it's like, that's essentially the TLDR.
Kind of like name, or like so basically it would look like this, right? You have the name of the person, okay, 1 Bitcoin over here, and then you would have like signature right there, and then it would just be like transferred to name, and then 1 Bitcoin over here, and then signature, and then it would just at the bottom it would be like now Nate has 0 Bitcoin, and Will has 1.
Well, it actually shows where the Bitcoin itself is, more so than like the blockchain doesn't show all the addresses. It just shows where every single coin is at. So that's the understanding that I have of this, is it just shows the location of the coins in like the bits and bytes and the split up whatever the heck's of it. So I think that it's some sort of combination probably between the two of our things. And also to your example, nobody else can see the signatures. The signatures are special and private. So everyone can see the public name, but they can't see the signature. But the signature has to happen in order for the coin to go to the next person. So,
and the public name to just add on to that, the public name is literally just a bunch of numbers, right? It's all computer cryptographic numbers. So it's like, okay, good luck figuring that out.
All right, so here we go into more explanation. So we got the problem, of course, is that the payee cannot verify that one of the owners did not double spend the coin. A common solution is to introduce a trusted central authority, or mint, that checks every transaction for double spending. After each transaction, the coin must be returned to the mint to issue a new coin, and only coins issued directly from the mint are trusted not to be double spent. The problem with this solution is that the fate of the entire money system depends on the company running the mint, with every transaction having to go through them just like a bank. We need a way for the payee to know that the previous owners did not sign any earlier transactions. For our purposes, the earliest transaction is the one that counts, so we don't care about later attempts to double spend. The only way to confirm the absence of a transaction is to be aware of all transactions. In the mint-based model, the mint was aware of all transactions and decided which arrived first. To accomplish this without a trusted party, transactions must be publicly announced, and we need a system for participants to agree on a single history of the order in which they were received. The payee needs proof that at the time of each transaction, the majority of the nodes agreed that it was the first received. So, that's a bit complicated, but yeah.
So funny. So kind of like you with your whole ledger thing, right? Stupid layman's terms, right? For brains like us. So I don't know if anybody here has ever played the card game Magic the Gathering, but this is exactly what happens on what's called the stack whenever you're playing the cards. So the thing would be like, you put out a creature, okay, and then I counter that creature spell, so therefore the creature will die and go away. However, you don't want that to happen, so then you put on top of that one a hex proof, which means that you cannot use a spell on that creature, and so since it's on top, it goes first. And then the creature cannot be countered by the spell, so then the counter then goes away, and then the creature does exactly what you wanted to originally. That's exactly what they're talking about right here. It's like, how do we know that he's not double spending it? Well, it's because it's going like literally line for line exactly what was in order there. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I like that. I've never played Magic, so I will trust your analysis there. I did, though, type it into ChatGPT, and it spit me out basically 3 sentences of an easy summarization. So essentially, the problems the receiver can't tell the spender already spent the same Bitcoin somewhere else. So we got the double spend. But the usual fix is creating the centralized authority. So that's why where it talks about the digital bank to verify, but that puts all the power in one place, which is antithetical to what they wanted to do. So Bitcoin avoids this by making all the transactions public and using a network of computers to agree on a single shared history. This way, the receiver can trust that the payment was the first and the only use of these coins without needing the middleman. So there we go. Excellent. So next
Yeah,
we got the
computers are math,
timestamps.
and they're using math.
Yeah.
It's like Math Congress, right? There's no feelings involved, and
Ooh,
bias. It's just
Math
math.
Congress. That's good. I like that. All right. So we're going to move on next into the timestamp server, section 3. So the solution we propose begins with a timestamp server. A timestamp server works by taking a hash of a block of items to be timestamped and widely publishing the hash, such as in a newspaper or Usenet post. The timestamp proves that the data must have existed at the time, obviously, in order to get into the hash. Each timestamp includes the previous timestamp in its hash, forming a chain, with each additional timestamp reinforcing the ones before it. So that seems pretty simple. Let me scroll up and make sure I'm not missing anything here. Okay. So yeah, that seems pretty easy. So bam, bam, we got all the stuff. Oh wow, that was the whole thing of timestamps. Look at that. All right, cool. So next is the proof of work model. So any thoughts on timestamps, Nate? I think that's pretty well covered.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, sweet. So moving on into proof of work, section 4. So to implement a distributed timestamp server on a peer-to-peer basis, we will need to use a proof of work system similar to Adam Back's Hashcash, figure 6. Rather than newspaper or Usenet posts, the proof of work involves scanning for a value that, when hashed, such as the SHA-256, the hash begins with a number of 0 bits. The average work required is exponential in the number of 0 bits required, and can be verified by executing a single hash. For our timestamp network, we implement the proof of work by incrementing a nonce in the block until a value is found that gives the block's hash required 0 bits. Once the CPU effort has been expended to make it satisfy the proof of work, the block cannot be changed without redoing the work. As later blocks are chained after it, the work to change the block would include redoing all the blocks after it. The proof of work also solves the problem of determining representation in majority decision-making. If the majority were based on one IP address, one vote, it could be subverted by anyone able to allocate many internet or IPs. Proof of work is essentially one CPU, one vote. The majority decision is represented by the longest chain, which has the greatest proof of work invested in it. If a majority of CPU power is controlled by honest nodes, the honest chain will grow the fastest and outpace any competing chains. To modify a passed block, an attacker would have to redo the proof of work of the block and all blocks after it, and then catch up with and surpass the work of the honest nodes. We will show later that the probability of a slow attacker catching up diminishes exponentially as subsequent blocks are added. To compensate for increasing hardware speed and varying interest in running nodes over time, the proof of work difficulty is determined by a moving average targeting an average number of blocks per hour. If they're generated too fast, the difficulty increases, and so that's where we get the increasing hash rate at all times. So as the computers get stronger and they're able to print out the blocks faster, the difficulty increases, and so it's like so we always get the roundabout 10-minute blocks or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and type this into peanut brain translation. While I do that, Nate, do you have any
words? There's quite a bit of words in there that were like software engineers and stuff, coders.
All right, help me understand this with a brief layman's summary. Control V. Bam. I misspelled.
Get the coding speech out of there.
Exactly. It's like, man, ChatGPT is so useful. All right, so here we go. To make Bitcoin secure without central authority, we use proof of work, which basically makes computers solve tough puzzles. The goal is to find a special number called a nonce. Okay, so that's what a nonce is. Find the special number that makes a block's digital fingerprint, its hash, start with a certain number of zeros. This puzzle takes real time and energy to solve, so once it's done, it's hard to change the block without redoing all that work. Since the blocks are chained together, okay, it gets more difficult. So basically, it's guess a super fancy number.
Yeah, that's exactly. So it's literally, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
I've heard it described as that before, but it's like, wow, it really is just guess a fancy number. It's like, the way that I'm inside my head, guess what it is, you know.
The way that I'm viewing it is it's literally like it's like each you always have a more complicated like lock, right? So in the physical world, you could just like break the lock because maybe it's made out of steel or something. But in this case, you can't because you have to beat the math, or you have to break the math, right?
You have to try every key that exists. And
exactly.
then,
You have to try every key or like every number on the key, and
yep,
then it gets harder and harder the
yeah,
more of them appear. It's like literally like level 1, level
yeah.
2, level 3.
Oh my goodness, that's ridiculous. Okay,
Mhm.
so yeah, and then it talks about instead of voting with IP, which is like if I get a bunch of phones, I got a bunch of different IPs or a bunch of computers, but they use the computing power as the vote, and so the most computation means the winner. All right, so
Mhm.
yeah, that's it in
Wait, was there a
in a
time limit
cool
on
little.
it? I can't remember if there was a time limit on how long until going
No,
but
there's no time limit, but I think it's just like an average of the time that it takes, which is generally 10 minutes. So, but it's like so each block can fit about 2 to 3,000 transactions inside of it. So that roughly I think equals out to 7 transactions per second is Bitcoin's, transactional computation speed or something like that, 7 TPS, which is not very phenomenal. But
Mhm.
we'll learn about that more when we get into the Roger Ver's book of Hijacking Bitcoin, where he talks about block size increase proposals and
Yeah.
developers and stuff. So, but anyways, that's the Peanut Brain Diamond Hand version of the Section 4. So that's pretty cool. All right, so moving on, we'll go into the network. So the steps to run the network are as follows. 1. New transactions are broadcast to all nodes. 2. Each node collects new transactions into a block. 3. Each node works on finding a difficult proof of work for its block. 4. When a node finds a proof of work, it broadcasts the block to all the nodes. 5. The nodes accept the block only if all transactions in it are valid and not already spent.
Mm.
6. The nodes express their acceptance of the block by working on creating the next block in the chain using the hash of the accepted block as the previous hash. So that's interesting. I did not know that that's how it works. But let's go into a little bit more details. Nodes always consider the longest chain to be the correct one and will keep working on extending it. If 2 nodes broadcast different versions of the next block simultaneously, some nodes may receive one or the other first. In that case, they work on the first one they received, but save the other branch in case it becomes longer. The tie will be broken when the next proof of work is found and one branch becomes longer. The nodes that were working on the other branch will then switch to the longer one. So I'm guessing that means that that's why some transactions don't go through, or why some of them are like, you wait 10 minutes and it's like, it failed or something like that. So
Yeah, that's the reason why when you do get stuck like that, you have to go in there and manually change the nodes to your
oh,
last
the
to the last
the
one that
nonce. I know on
yeah,
Ethereum, like in
sorry,
MetaMask,
none.
you can
Yeah,
change
my
the
bad.
nonce. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Man, this is some complicated. Oh, we got a little bit more here. All right, let's see. New transaction broadcasts do not necessarily need to reach all nodes. As long as they reached many nodes, they will get into a block before long. Block broadcasts are also tolerant of dropped messages. If a node does not receive a block, it will request it when it receives the next block and realizes it misses one. Oh, that's kind of cool. So it's like, hey,
Smart.
where's block number 33? Give me that thing. And then they that's cool. So as long as there's a shit ton of nodes and a shit ton of I don't know if the usage of the word node in this is uh like jargon equivalent of calling them miners. So because there's
Yeah, that's kind of where it's tripping me up just a little bit on that
yeah.
because I'm sitting here trying to imagine like actual miners themselves. But basically, what it's talking about is the equivalent of 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and the thing goes, wait a minute, where's 4?
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, it's like wow, what a nifty concept.
Yeah,
And
well, I mean, it's computers just doing computer things. It's just math, literally mathing out. And
yeah.
math is quite literally. See, this is why I talk about all the time how the internet is a brand new, or cyberspace, I should say, is a brand new dimension altogether. Because if you look at like the math of our universe,
Mhm.
it's literally the language of our universe. You can't break it. There's always something mathing correctly in it. And
Mhm.
so when you start getting into the depths of, cyberspace and how Bitcoin and the blockchain works like this, it's literally just speaking the language of math.
Mhm. That's freaking. And we've also got we've got a comment as well from Mr. Paul Sachs. It's not quite relevant to what we're discussing right now, but I want to make sure that I bring it up before we go too far. But after the white paper, he sent me something from 2009 that helps everyone understand Satoshi and the general's public frustrations with the big banks back then. Yes, there was the 2008 mortgage crisis that like spurred a lot of this on, and then there's some other stuff in 2009. So I'm curious to see what that is, Paul Sachs. But thank you for joining, amigo. Thank you for joining. But yeah, Nate, it is cool how just like the math is, I don't want to say relatively simple, but like the concept, at least, if not the execution, is just like pretty palatable and understandable. So I think that part makes pretty good sense. We don't need a translation for that, do we?
No, I think we're good.
Cool beans. We're going to move on to incentives. So part 6. By convention, the first transaction in a block is a special transaction that starts a new coin owned by the creator of the block. This adds an incentive for nodes to support the network and provides a way to initially distribute coins into circulation, since there is no central authority to issue them. The steady addition of a constant amount of new coins is analogous to gold miners expending resources to add gold to circulation. In our case, it's CPU time and electricity that is expended. The incentive can also be funded with transaction fees. If the output value of a transaction is less than its input value, the difference is a transaction fee that is added to the incentive value of the block containing the transaction. Once a predetermined number of coins have entered circulation, the incentive can transition entirely to transaction fees and be completely inflated, and can be completely inflation-free. The incentive may help encourage nodes to stay honest. If a greedy attacker is able to assemble more CPU power than all the honest nodes, he would have to choose between using it to defraud people by stealing back his payments or using it to generate new coins. He ought to find it more profitable to play by the rules, such rules that favor him with more new coins than everyone else combined, than to determine the system and the validity of his own wealth. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so yeah, so when he says nodes, he is like the usage of the word node in this white paper is indeed colloquially referring to the miners that we what we call miners today, and he even made the analogy of the gold mine. So
yeah, that it's really interesting just how that was so heavy on Satoshi's mind of like, hey, you have to expend resources and energy, like human energy and like gas and all that, and able to go mine gold, and then you're rewarded with adding more gold to the circulation in the world. Well, this is the same thing, only it's computing power instead of humans. And then, of course, energy as well, which I find it interesting that energy is the same thing, technically, like the expansion of energy. So it's just computers versus humans. That's kind of scary to think about, actually. It's humans, physical gold. But no, this one here is computers and digital gold.
Yeah.
It's the computers gold.
Yeah. We without the computers, we cannot extract the Bitcoins into the real world. So a nifty thought. All right, we're going to move on to number 7, reclaiming disk space. So once the latest transaction in a coin is buried under enough blocks, the spent transactions before it can be discarded to save disk space. To facilitate this without breaking the block's hash, transactions are hashed in a Merkle tree. 725. Oh, those are references. With only the root included in the block's hash. Old blocks can then be compacted by stubbing off branches of the tree. Interior hashes do not need to be stored. So this is an example of like data before. Oh, goodness. This one right here is an example of data before the pruning. So like this is what everything looks like. So we have to store every damn thing. And then this is an example of what it looks like after the pruning, where it's like, aha, we've got the special stuff and we know that it's hash 01. So we have all of this data sort of kind of intrinsic to this. It strikes me almost as like a zip file or something similar to that. So, and this hash right here is kept up in there. So like we're missing 0, 1, and 2. Like we don't have to store that data because we have hash 1, hash 2, and that holds everything. So that's pretty nifty.
You know what that kind of reminds me of a little bit?
What's that?
Like a cell, like a human cell.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
It's like you got the block, and then inside the block are all these parts that make up the block. And I bet you, and if you went even deeper than that, there's probably things that make up like the hashes and all that too. So.
I know that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So that's all that I know. I was just making that joke earlier. Shout out to all my mitochondria out there. All right, so let's look into block size. So a block header with no transactions would be about 80 bytes. If we suppose blocks are generated every 10 minutes, then 80 bytes times 6 times 24 times 365 equals about 4.2 megabytes or millibytes. I don't know. Megabytes per year. I think it's megabytes.
Gigabytes.
Megabytes per year. With computer systems typically selling with 2 gigs of RAM as of 2008 and Moore's law predicting current growth of 1.2 gigabytes per year, storage should not be a problem even if the block headers must be kept in memory. Oh, okay. So yeah, they're just talking about storing the blocks, which is another contentious point if you talk to Bitcoin maximalists. So that was that's one of the contentious points in the book Hijacking Bitcoin. So I'm not going to spoil that book, but I highly recommend that everyone read Hijacking Bitcoin. And I'm tempted to call Bitcoin Core after reading that book. Anytime I'm referring to Bitcoin, just call it Bitcoin Core. So there we go. Any thoughts on storing data, Nate? This seems pretty straightforward to me.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Very
cool.
straightforward.
Next up, simplified payment verification. It is possible to verify payments without running a full network node. A user only needs to keep a copy of the block headers of the longest proof of work chain, which he can get by querying network nodes until he is convinced he has the longest chain, and obtain the Merkle branch, linking the transaction to the block is timestamped in. He can't check the transaction for himself, but by linking it to a place in the chain, he can see that the network node has accepted it. And the blocks added after it further confirm that the network has accepted it. Okay, so that sounds rather complicated, but I think I get the general idea. Let's see. As such, the verification is reliable as long as honest nodes control the network, but is more vulnerable if the network is overpowered by an attacker. While network nodes can verify transactions for themselves, the simplified method can be fooled by an attacker's fabricated transactions for as long as the attacker can continue to overpower the network. One strategy to protect against this would be to accept alerts from network nodes when they detect an invalid block, prompting the user's software to download the full block and alerted transactions to confirm the inconsistency. Businesses that receive frequent payments will probably still want to run their own nodes for more independent security and quicker verification. So, nodes, miners, yeah, basically.
They have an alert system, basically, notification. Hey.
Yeah. So this is for payment verification. So that seems pretty easy. We're going to move right along. So Section 9, combining and splitting value. Although it would be possible to handle coins individually, it would be unwieldy to make a separate transaction for every cent in a transfer. To allow value to be split and combined, transactions contain multiple inputs and outputs. Normally, there would be either a single input from a larger previous transaction or multiple inputs combining smaller amounts, and at most 2 outputs, one for the payment and one returning the change, if any, back to the sender. It should be noted that fan-out, where a transaction depends on several transactions and those transactions depend on many more, is not a problem here. There is never the need to extract a complete standalone copy of a transaction's history. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to copy it and put it into ChatGPT. Thoughts?
It sounds like it's it's basically taking like the transaction, just like bundling them together. So like each transaction for each one, or is it just numerical? Because it seems like the problem that he's bringing up here is, you would have to do it for each individual coin. When you want to send 10,000 coins, then it would have to be computed 10,000 times with like 10,000 transactions. Or
it's the ChatGPT spit me out a pretty good explanation. You want me to launch it? Because I don't know the answer to your question, honestly. So let's see here. So instead of treating each tiny amount of Bitcoin separately, Bitcoin lets you combine and split amounts using inputs and outputs inside a transaction. For example, if you're paying someone 1.5 Bitcoin, the system might combine smaller amounts or use one big one and return the extra back to you as change. Even though one transaction can be linked to many others before it, you don't need to track the entire history to use or verify it. It's all handled smoothly by the network. So does that answer your question?
Well, it wasn't a question. It was kind of going into what my theory about what was being talked about here. So as
Oh,
far
okay.
as I could tell, it's the hashes themselves, and they basically just like combine hashes or put like more smaller hashes into a single transaction.
Oh, okay, okay.
Mm.
Well, I like that we're able to, transact in smaller units than just one Bitcoin, because that would get kind of obnoxious. I wonder why he chose 21 million. What an interesting what was his reason for that? Oh well, we'll never know unless he shows up. Unless Hunter Biden really does unmask himself as Satoshi Nakamoto one day, and my theory becomes true. Then other than that, we will never know. So that's combining and splitting value. Moving right along into section 10 on privacy. The traditional banking model achieves a level of privacy by limiting access to information to the parties involved and the trusted third party. The necessity to announce all transactions publicly precludes this method, but privacy can still be maintained by breaking the flow of information in another place, by keeping public keys anonymous. The public can see that someone is sending an amount to someone else, but without information linking the transaction to anyone. This is similar to the level of information released by stock exchanges, where the time and size of individual tapes or trades, the tape, is made public, but without telling anyone who the parties were. So the traditional privacy model, we've got identities and transactions go to the third party and then to the counterparty and are separate from the public. But with the new privacy model, we have the identity split off from the transactions and the public. So I like it.
I like the
think,
transactions being public. That's good.
yeah, and I like my information remaining semi-anonymous. Like having public addresses. Like if I decide to buy a domain name that is linked to a specific like wallet address, then it's like that's my choice to do so. But if I also want to remain anonymous, or if I want to use other anonymity protocols like Tornado Cash or ZK Knowledge or ZKZY or other things that like Railgun that scramble your payments, then I think that that's important too, because like one of the main reasons I remember is like you don't want your employees knowing like everything on the payroll. You don't want all your distributors seeing what you're paying all your other distributors. Anonymity and privacy is important in payment system, and like if we can still see the transactions and know the transactions are valid, we don't need to see who's making them. And I think that everyone should have all this stuff. So I think it's important. And I wish Bitcoin had more privacy features. It's not incredibly private because there's pretty much not a whole lot of ways to get into Bitcoin without going through some sort of KYC or some sort of thing. So people can backtrace data from like, transaction to transaction to transaction all the way back to the centralized exchange. And then from there, they can, submit KYC requests, or they can basically be the FBI and say like, hey, we'll take you to jail if you don't give us this person's info. But like, there's not a whole lot of opportunity on the Bitcoin network for like serious privacy, as much, at least not as many options as there are on say like Pulse Chain or Ethereum or other such or Monero, other such networks.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. It's like Bitcoin itself is for anonymity, but the transactions are public. The problem that we've run into, unfortunately, is the powers that be have put a gate to the pathways in.
Yeah.
And the only true way that you can get onto the networks and buy Bitcoin without that is you have to go back to the cypherpunk days, and you really need to know what you're doing with computer stuff.
Yep. Or like have a friend, like if you do it the old fashioned way of like, hey, I give you $10 and you send some money to an address, like that's a way to do it too. When I was down in El Salvador, there was actually vending machines, or they weren't vending machines. No, they were vending machines, Bitcoin vending machines, where because they were not legally considered ATMs, you could buy cryptocurrency from them. But like it maxed out at like $100, and like you were paying a 10% fee for the privilege of doing it. So it's like, congratulations, you can like DCA $90 out of the 100 that you spend. So like you're losing 10% on the spread for the fees and stuff. So it's like everything comes at a price. But like the original idea, the original intent of Bitcoin when they, when he was writing this white paper and they were developing the code and doing all that stuff, was to like keep anonymity and keep privacy and keep security and things like that. So I think it's it didn't necessarily turn out that way in the end. as a result of, everyone doing whale watching, or not whale watching, but like wallet watching, and just, there's going to be sleuths and detectives and people with, curious bones in their bodies going and looking like, oh, where does this transaction come from? Like, I know it's super addictive, and we've all got whale watcher alerts on our phones that tell us like when big whales are moving in the ecosystem, because like you can study patterns of behavior and like, oh, this person spent money on this thing, or this guy sent money to here, you can extrapolate a lot of data from that. But anyways, it didn't turn out exactly the way that they had hoped in the beginning, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's good intentions anyways.
Well, it's getting captured, aka what you were talking about. Do you know what's really interesting?
What's that?
So it kind of reminds me of like there's this country called Bitcoin, right?
Mhm.
And then the government was like, "Ooh, I really like that country because there's a lot of resources over there." And so then they went and that you can't control the land itself, but what you can do is you can put up border control, right?
Mhm.
And so that way, everyone who goes into the country, you can document them and be like, "Hey, that's this person, cool," and then they disappear into the land.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, what are you gonna do when you're faced off against big daddy government like that? It's like
Right. Ugh.
not a lot of options. Okie dokie. So this next part is a bit complicated. So this shows all the math behind everything. So I'm gonna read it, but we might end up breezing through a good bit of it here. So we've got the calculations here. So we consider the scenario of an attacker trying to generate an alternate chain faster than the honest chain. Even if this is accomplished, it does not throw the system open to arbitrary changes, such as creating value out of thin air or by taking money that never belonged to the attacker. Nodes are not going to accept an invalid transaction as payment, and honest nodes will never accept a block containing them. An attacker can only try to change one of his own transactions to take back money he recently spent. The race between the honest chain and an attacker chain can be characterized as a binomial random walk. The success event is the honest chain being extended by one block, increasing its lead by +1. And the failure event is the attacker's chain be extended by one block, reducing the gap by -1. The probability of an attacker catching up from a given deficit is analogous to a gambler's ruin problem. Suppose a gambler with unlimited credit starts at a deficit and plays potentially an infinite number of trials to reach break even. We can calculate the probability he ever reaches break even, or that an attacker catches up with the honest chain as follows. So there's the math and all that stuff, and blah-de-da. And here's the explanation. Given our assumption that P is greater than Q, the probability drops exponentially as the number of blocks the attacker has to catch up with increases. With the odds against him, if he doesn't make a lucky lunge forward early on, his chances become vanishingly small as he falls further behind. We now consider how long the receipt of the new transaction needs to wait before being sufficiently certain that the sender can't change the transaction. We assume the sender is an attacker who wants to make the recipient believe he paid him for a while, then switch it to pay back himself after some time has passed. The receiver will be alerted when that happens, but the sender hopes that it will be too late. The receiver generates a new pair of keys and gives the public key to the sender shortly before signing. This prevents the sender from preparing a chain of blocks ahead of time by working on it continuously until he is lucky enough to get far enough ahead, then executing the transaction at that moment. Once the transaction is sent, the dishonest sender starts working in secret on a parallel chain containing an alternate version of his transaction. The recipient waits until the transaction has been added to a block, and Z blocks have been linked after it. He doesn't know the exact amount of progress the attacker has made, but assuming the honest blocks took the average expected time per block, the attacker's potential progress will be a Poisson distribution with expected value. To get the probability the attacker could still catch up now, we multiply the Poisson density for each amount of progress he would have to make by the probability he could catch up from that point. Rearranging to avoid summing the infinite tail of the distribution, converting it into code. Bam. There we go. The conclusion. We have proposed a system for electronic transactions without relying on trust. We started with the usual framework of coins made from digital signatures, which provides strong control of ownership but is incomplete without a way to prevent double spending. To solve this, we proposed a peer-to-peer network using proof of work to record a public history of transactions that quickly becomes computationally impractical for an attacker to change it if honest nodes control a majority of the CPU power. The network is robust in its unstructured simplicity. Nodes work all at once with little coordination. They do not need to be identified, since messages are not routed to any particular place and only need to be delivered on a best effort basis. Nodes can leave and rejoin the network at will, accepting the proof of work chain as proof of what happened while they were gone. They vote with their CPU power, expressing their acceptance of valid blocks by working on extending them, and rejecting invalid blocks by refusing to work on them. Any needed rules and incentives can be enforced with this consensus mechanism. And that is the end of the Bitcoin white paper.
So that kind of, I don't know why, but that was reminding me of kind of how like synapses work in a brain, where it's like you have many different nodes, right? And they send electricity, but generally, for the most part, it's kind of random as you're thinking things, right?
Yeah.
So it brings up the question, do you think Bitcoin's alive?
I mean, in a sense, you know, it doesn't have a heartbeat, but it does have some miners, and it does have some other folks, you know, like people are trading it. It's working. It's transacting. There's people that are using it. Old grandpa code though it might be, it's doing stuff. So
yeah, it's a really good idea. Somebody literally just thought of like, hey, let's just have computing power all over the world. These random nodes, and these numbers will just randomly go, and hashes will just randomly go anywhere. And then it'll all these computers all together will just verify that this one particular transaction is correct and verified by everybody. Like it's funny. It's like it's a worldwide math. It's like the math itself is the what would the word be? Because I'm thinking of like the humans around the world, you know, would be like sending messages to each other. But yeah, but it's like like you'll get a random message, and then you go and you look and you're like, yep, that verifies it, and then you've got like millions of us all around the world doing it all at the same time, you know?
Yeah, just a whole bunch of little independent but like cooperative little gentlemen and ladies, all working together.
It's interesting.
Symbiosis or
That's for
something.
sure.
Like lucky symbiosis. I don't know. It works
It's
out.
literally the definition of World Wide Web. It's actually that definition.
Oh yeah, it is a web. We're a web of truth and awesome things. All right, we're gonna take this time. So Mr. Paul Sachs has been kind enough to send us a YouTube video that is CNBC Rick Santelli's Chicago. Oh, dismiss that. I don't care. Chicago Tea Party. So I have not watched this video, but I trust Paul. Mr. Paul Sachs sends good stuff, so I am going to click share.
It's definitely going to be a Rick roll.
It might be a Rick roll. That would be funny. All right, so here we are. Let me click the theater mode, and then I will turn the quality. Where's quality? Quality. We'll put that up. I guess it's at 480. Well, that's what it is. So here we go. Let me know give me a thumbs up, Nate, if you can hear sound.
Santelli and Jason Roney of Sharma Capital are standing by at the CME Group in Chicago. And Rick, have you been listening to this conversation?
Listening to it, I've been just glued to it because Mr. Roth has nailed it. You know, the government is promoting bad behavior because we certainly don't want to put stimulus forth and give people a whopping $8 or $10 in their check and think that they ought to save it. And in terms of modifications, I'll tell you what, I have an idea. You know, the new administration's big on computers and technology. How about this, President and administration? Why don't you put up a website to have people vote on the internet as a referendum to see if we really want to subsidize the losers' mortgages, or would we like to at least buy cars and buy houses in foreclosure and give them to people that might have a chance to actually prosper down the road and reward people that could carry the water instead of drink the water?
Hey, Rick,
that's a novel idea.
Hey, Rick, did you?
Yeah.
On live TV.
Like putty in your hands. Did you hear?
No, they're not, Joe. They're not like putty in our hands. This is America. How many of you people want to pay for your neighbor's mortgage that has an extra bathroom and can't pay their bills? Raise their hand. How about we all? President Obama, are you listening?
How about we all stop paying our mortgage? It's a moral hazard.
This is like I'm getting scared. I'm glad I'm.
Why don't you guys don't get
get
scared,
some
Joe.
bricks and
They're
bats.
already scaring you. You know, Cuba used to have mansions and a relatively decent economy. They moved from the individual to the collective. Now they're driving 54 Chevys. Maybe the last great car to come out of Detroit.
They're driving them on water too, which is a little strange to watch.
There you
times.
go.
Hey, Rick, how about the notion that Wilbur pointed out you can go down to 2% on the mortgage.
You can go down to minus 2%
and still have 40%, and still have 40% not be able to do it. So why are they in the house? Why are we trying to keep them in the house?
Mr. Summers is a great economist, but boy, I'd love the answer to that one.
Jason,
You get people fired up.
Jason, you want to?
We're thinking of having a Chicago Tea Party in July. All you capitalists that want to show up to Lake Michigan, I'm going to start organizing.
What are you jumping in? What are you jumping in this time? Housing?
We're going to be dumping in some derivative securities. What do you think about
Mayor
that?
Daley is marshaling the police right now.
Rabble route.
National Guard.
Jason, are you nearby? Can you hear the cheering?
I am, but I don't have a gallery directly behind me, so it's going to be tough to follow that act.
Yeah, exactly. You agree?
I'm going to run down to the pit. Well, clearly, we're going to debate the moral issues of what government is and is not doing for some years to come. I mean, it's apparent even for traders. It's the market gaps up and down a significant amount each day just on what one government may or may not do. We're up 10 points or so in the S&P on the idea that core Europe may have some bank stability plan. So, you know, the traders market, the uncertainty in the market will continue until we get through this process of weekly government plans.
You know, Rick, one of our producers says if Roland Burris steps down, man, Senator Santelli, the junior senator from Illinois, it's a possibility. I'm just saying.
Do you think I want to take a shower every hour? The last place I'm ever going to live or work is D.C.
Have you raised any money for Blago?
No, but I think that somebody's going to have to start raising money for us.
Hey, Rick, can you do that one more time? Just get the mob behind you again. I love it.
I have the camera pull way out.
Yeah, pull way out. Everybody listen to Rick Santelli.
I don't think you can't just do it at will, can you, Rick? I mean, you have to say something.
Yeah, do it at will. Let's see.
Listen, all I know is that there's only about 5% of the floor population here right now, and I talk loud enough they can all hear me. So if you want to ask them anything, let me know. These guys are pretty straightforward, and my guess is a pretty good statistical cross-section of America, the silent majority.
Not so silent majority.
Yeah, not so silent.
So, Rick, are they opposed to the housing thing, to the stimulus package, to everything out there?
You know, they're pretty much of the notion that you can't buy your way into prosperity, and if the multiplier that all of these Washington economists are selling us is over one, then we never have to worry about the economy again. The government should spend $1 trillion an hour because we'll get 1.5 trillion back.
Wilbur?
Rick, I congratulate you on your new incarnation as revolutionary leader.
What an interesting dang, he let him have it, dude. That was pretty good. Yeah, so basically
go over there.
Yeah, so it sounded like the crux of his point was they were all tired of the government bailing out the big banks, and that is like what more or less led to, you know, like we need a better money system. So yeah, it definitely does hit different 16 years later.
Yeah, what Paul's saying right there. That's the thing. That's why I'm laughing so much at it, because like back then it's like, oh yeah, boo. Nowadays, after gone through everything that we have gone through, it's hilarious that you can tell this is where like the government status quo, you started really losing it, right?
Yeah,
that's where they were really starting to lose it. And it would make sense then, like once we started hitting 2015, because that would only be what, like 8 years later, you know, 2015, 2014. That's where like all the tactics were coming out of, like shaming people for being racist and things like that, and splitting people up and all that. You know, I can see why they started going so heavy on it now, because that just in the money and the whole financial crisis of 2008. It makes a lot of sense. People were already getting heated about, hey, something bad is going to happen, and then something bad did happen, and it took the Fed to literally bail out the large banks, which then pissed all over the people, and yada yada yada. Hey, but you know what? 16 years later, here we are. So I think we're in a good place now. I think we're starting to get back on the right track. You are muted, my friend.
I certainly hope so. How the hell did I get muted, I wonder? It would press I can press that button. I forgot I have a button on my mouse that quick mutes me. I'm on the Hex.com website right now looking for the Hex white paper, and I'm not finding it. Now,
I think that'd be a good one to keep in our pocket for another day, actually.
Yeah, keep that in our pocket. Let's go ahead and open the floor to discussion. If there's anyone in the comments with any sort of questions or any sort of thoughts they want to have about the Bitcoin white paper, I thought that was a pretty darn good read. It's all the stuff that I think that we already kind of knew, but it's good to go through it like live here on the spot. So
officially,
if anyone has any thoughts or any contributions or any things, then we'll stick around for a little bit longer. But I think other than that, Nate, that was a pretty darn good little mini book club, little small small degen special, I think.
Yeah, our streams don't necessarily have to be like 2-3 hours, every single time. That's a lot of information to go through oftentimes for people, and have nice and short and sweet oftentimes is really good, and we went through the Bitcoin white paper. It definitely is. There's a lot of like coding wording in there, so it's hard, at least for someone like me who doesn't code. It's hard for me to keep up with it, really. But the idea, you can tell how this person, Satoshi, or people, he or she, or maybe it's an AI robot. Oh, we don't know.
Could be.
But there was a lot of thought that went into it. Direct ties to looking at the traditional financial system and saying, hey, here's where we need to trust humans to be good. And of course, humans are greedy monsters. We always have been and always will be. And so are we really gonna trust, right? And so far it's been the only thing that we have been able to do is trust them. And there's been I think we've been in a decent place, but like what happened in 2008 and just the energy of whatever his name was there, I can't remember it, but his energy. Rick, yeah. So the energy of Ricky over there, right? You can you can tell that it obviously it was starting to break down. And so when you pull humans out of the equation and you put just pure mathematics into it, it truly does work. And I mean, how long has Bitcoin been around now? For 16 years. So it's proof that it works. And I think it's definitely a showing that of the direction that we humans are going in the digital age, because it started off with, hey, I can go make a website on this new place, this new dimension, where I can literally send an email to somebody and connect with them across the world in an instant, right? That's like you got some, it's like you got warp speed, warp speed in communication. I can go ahead and type out some words that I want to say to somebody, send it off, and then within a second or so, someone over there in Japan or China is able to read it. So then you've got that. And then you started coming up with things of like, hey, I got a nail clipper here. Does anybody want a nail clipper? Cool. You want one over there in China, literally the other end of the planet. Here we go. Payment system, bam. And now I'm sending it off to you. And like maybe a week or so, it'll get to you. Like, it's just it's the speed of how things are going. And what I think is very interesting is the idea of cyberspace being like a whole new dimension. Well, in Star Trek, warp speed was a new dimension. They basically, so the idea was like you have space and then you go under space into the warp zone or whatever, and you just basically go up like that. It's kind of like a whole wormhole where you kind of like fold space kind of like this, and then you just go straight through it. And the distance could be just light years, tons and tons of light years. So it's almost like that if you were to think about it that way. What used to take physically, write out a letter and then have a bird, the fastest thing at that time, go and send it off to somebody. Well, let's just pretend the bird had unlimited stamina, was able to fly forever, even going as fast as it possibly could. It would still take like months just to get across the world, if it was going as fast as it could, just nonstop. And now it's seconds, right? Thanks to cyberspace.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but it's an interesting view. It's an interesting viewpoint into like where we're going, because now we have payment systems that don't require humans to be like, hey, is this payment, legit? No, the computers are just doing it for us. And it's so much faster than a human verifying. Because if you think about what Bitcoin actually does, it looks at that transaction and goes, all right, let me check all these other places that it's been written down on that ledger. And okay, it's good. And even though Bitcoin is old and slow, it's way faster than a human having to do it for something written down, right? Or having to go through files on the computer.
Yeah.
And so like we're at that point, and that's continually getting.
Oh no! Fiddlesticks, we lost Nate. He'll be back here shortly. Dang it! You were on such a good roll, Nate. Oh, fiddlesticks. All right, let's see if I do that. Nope. All right. Well, tell you what, folks. Here's what I'm going to do. While we wait for Nate to come back, I am going to go ahead and read off a quick little summary of the Bitcoin white paper. This has been simplified by ChatGPT. So for those of you that are just now joining us, we have read the entire Bitcoin white paper, and this is the quick summary, the TLDR. Once Nate gets back, I'll let him finish off his thought, and then we will continue on with the show and probably LMF, they got me. Oh, they're coming after him. All right, no worries, Nate. As soon as you pop back in here, I will I'll re-add you to the show. But oh yeah, look at that. I give you guys our little QR code there up on the top. While we wait for Nate, though, here is the super duper simple version of the Bitcoin white paper. So basically, Bitcoin is digital cash you can send directly to someone else without needing a bank, PayPal, or other middlemen. It's secure, global, and doesn't rely on trust, just math. How does it work? Transactions are recorded publicly on a chain. Miners are computers that solve the math problems to verify transactions. Called in the white paper, they were called nodes. Once verified, a group of transaction is added to the chain as a block. The first miner to solve the puzzle earns new Bitcoins. This is called mining. Everyone on the network agrees that the largest chain of blocks keeps everything in sync, and that is how it works. So why is it secure? It's secure because the miners have to spend time and energy to add blocks, which prevents spam or fraud. The decentralized network has no central authority controlling Bitcoin. Instead, it's thousands of computers around the world maintain it. And then there's privacy aspect. While all transactions are public, users are anonymous unless they reveal their identity. The big idea is that Bitcoin makes online payments without needing to trust a middleman. It combines cryptography, decentralization, and economic incentives to keep the system honest and working. And that is the general gist of it. Nate, I see that you have rejoined me, so I'm going to click you on in here, add to stage, and then we've got the ascending. Oh, I've had your comment up that whole time. Yes, we've got the ascending man. He is back, and I gotta say, they fucking got him. They fucking got you. So
actually, my whole computer crashed. It literally, as I was talking, all of a sudden everything just went dark.
Yeah, I don't remember what you were talking about, but it must have been important because otherwise they wouldn't have sent all that Martian energy over your way to get you canceled out there.
Yeah, no, I was talking about basically warping speed and accelerating ideas, information, money, physical things. And actually, I was heading to my final point being AI, and then where we can go from after AI, but. I was gonna be like, hey, wait a second, I wanted to go get more tea.
There you go.
There's something in the green tea. Obviously.
You were getting too close to the 0 point energy stuff, and so they're like, we gotta silence him before he starts telling people.
You're not lying.
Yeah, I mean, you hear about all those people that are like, oh, I was working on cold fusion, and then he died of turbo cancer, or he died in a car accident, or he like I know death happens to people, but it happens especially often to people that are working on or propagating the idea of cold fusion and infinite energy, or at least super cheap energy, anything that competes with like the water, the car that travels on like a liter of water all the way across the states. It's like he died of turbo cancer. There's a lot of people dying of turbo cancer where it's like, oh, super duper aggressive, kills them in like a month or something. I know that it exists, right? I'm not naive to the fact that accidents happen to people, but like,
who's getting really close to dying of turbo cancer?
Well, hopefully not us.
No, Joe Budden.
Oh man, I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. That man has suffered enough in service of his country.
I know.
or
I
something.
know it's so terrible now that I'm watching like the old like memes of him and everything. I'm just like, oh, Grandpa, it's bedtime. Please stop.
Yeah.
Elder abuse, elder abuse.
I don't want to go too far down the political rabbit hole. I will say that I hope that he has a speedy recovery, and I know that cancer is no small ordeal. So I know some people that have some difficulties with cancer and things. So my heart's out to all of you guys, and including people that I'm not terribly fond of the policies or the leadership of. I still don't think that it's an awesome thing to happen. But yeah, I do wish Mr. Biden a speedy recovery, and I hope Jay Bizzle can get back to making the world a better place and doing the things that he does in whatever means that he finds. That's my political response to this. So
Political response. There we go.
yep. Gotta remain. You know, what's not
Neutral.
ambiguous, but like, I think it's good to give people, to not be like outwardly unfair or emotional or judgmental, at least publicly. Like, I have my private opinions about the guy, but like, you know, he's definitely going through some shit. So for that, he gets a pass. So anyways, that is all that I have for the show. Nate, any final thoughts? And if not, where can the folks find you, and what have you got going on in the near future?
Awesome. Well, for final thoughts, I think we're heading to a great place. I think the whole conception and birth and continuation of Bitcoin and where the cryptocurrency space is going, I think is good for humanity, and I'm looking forward to the next couple of decades. You know, I got a few decades left in me, and I look forward to seeing. I look forward to being that old person who's like, I remember back in my day, used to have to like have the dial up internet.
Yeah.
You know, I look forward to that, actually. I hope I can be that old man, the old grandpa, maybe great grandpa. That'd be great, right?
There you
But
go.
yeah, no, where you can find me on X at the Ascending Man 369, or you can go ahead and find me on YouTube, the Ascending Man. Just go ahead, type that in. You'll see my shield that's over in the chat. You'll be it's the same thing everywhere. And yeah, I've just got done editing out 4 videos. I'm going to be uploading those next week. I don't know if I'm going to do every other day or every day, but I've got a lot more content coming out. It's going to be not exactly cryptocurrency focused. It's going to be other fun things, because cryptocurrency, unfortunately, is a little bit boring right now. But I do have a cryptocurrency, and for the ones that I do for cryptocurrencies, I want to make it a little bit funner than the normal type of videos that people have a tendency to do, with memes and higher energy and more positive vibes and stuff. So because of that, the editing process is really annoying, especially with something that I'm struggling with, which is like, you need free space and you need to pay for it and all that crap. So I'm gonna have to get that figured out soon. Yeah, it bugs with the editing process quite terribly. Something will take 4 hours instead of should only be like an hour or 2 hours, which is bad. So I'm gonna continue on putting out content. Aside from that, just go ahead, go subscribe to my channel, and look forward to a lot of fun content coming out, because fun is what it is I'm trying to do over there, and I want to make people laugh. And so yeah, let's join in with my little rants and fun little things that I do over there.
Excellent. It's going to be a good time. For the folks at home, if you guys want to find anything that I'm up to, especially in real life, then what you can do is you can go and meet Hexicans in real life by going to bit.ly/hex_meetup. It's a Telegram group that I made. Also t.me/hex_meetup. That also works, but this one, this little link right here, the bit.ly one, will take you directly to the start here page, which I should have done when I made the channel, but it already exists and people are already over there talking about it and doing things. So there you guys go. If you want to meet me in real life or anything, then that's the place to do it. If you want to see any of my socials or anything, you can find all of my stuff at will.pls.fyi. That is my domain name on PulseChain, and that's stuff having to do with me. As far as the DGen Roundtable channel goes, on Sunday I will probably be doing a Campfire Stories episode, because my normal compadres they have a busy weekend. So happy Memorial Day weekend to everybody out there. Today this weekend on Monday specifically, we celebrate Memorial Day. So that's in memoriam of all of the fallen veterans and all of the people who have sacrificed things for the country and did not make it back. So Veterans Day is for celebrating all the vets. Memorial Day is for those that did not make it back. So we salute you all. If you're veterans out there, then we shed a tear and we pray for you, and we'll drink one out for the homies that didn't make it back. And other than that, guys, go have some nice barbecue and go hang out with your family, spend time with the folks while they're still around. And so we'll have the normal Sunday show. It'll be me doing campfire stories. And then next Wednesday, I don't think we have any special guests planned, so it'll probably be a Whiskey Wednesday. It'll be a good time. And then the following Friday, I'll see if Zenith is down to do the makeup for this Friday's book club, which was Hijacking Bitcoin by Roger Ver. So we'll see if we can do that stream then for book club instead. So I highly recommend you guys go read Hijacking Bitcoin by Roger Ver. And that's what we've got for the DGen Roundtable. And that's what we've got for everything. So I suppose it's time for me to read the end of show copywriting and clickety-click that special little producer end show button. Before I do that, though, I got to remind all the folks at home that nothing we talk about here on the DGen Roundtable is financial advice. So there you go. Hashtag not financial advice, and a nice little egg corn for you guys on the way out. So let's see. I got to make sure that I have my mouse placed correctly so I can click the end show credits thing when it is time to do that. Alrighty. I want to thank you all for spending your valuable time with us here on the DGen Roundtable. As Agent J often says, we know that time is your most valuable asset, and we appreciate you investing it right here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Will Stevenson, but more importantly, you have been watching the DGen Roundtable. Mr. Producer is me. I'm going to go ahead and get that trigger figure ready because it's time to remind all the folks at home to remember to DGen responsibly.